Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Firefighting Female Podcast. Today I want to talk about holiday tips to survive the holidays. I'm wearing my Santa hat with my Caps logo on, and I've got on my red boots, so I'm ready for action. I wrote down a list of things to talk about that I recommend as holiday tips. Of course, everybody has their own traditions and their own ways of doing things. So, of course, take what you want from what I'm going to offer and add your own things to make success for yourself. So, to start, the first thing is the holiday is a day. It's not a month or a season. And I know once Halloween hits, people lose complete control. It's game on, and we eat everything and anything because there's a lot of parties going on, lots of festivities in the neighborhood community events. But we've got to make sure that we remember it's a day, not a month and a season. The next thing that we can do is to eat a piece of fruit before our big meals because that way we fill up on something that's nutritious and low calorie and maybe will help us reduce the amount of portions that we eat from the big meal. You won't feel as hungry with that one piece of fruit. Another thing that you can do is to drink at least 8 ounces of water before the big meal to help fill your stomach up too, because that way you have a little bit of satiety before you start eating. Remember, the worst thing to do is to start eating the big meal when you're starving or hangry. You're going to lose complete control. We all do. The next thing we can do is to follow the My Plate recommendations for portions. So with My Plate, imagine if you take your plate and you cut it in half. Half of that plate is going to be fruits and vegetables. The other half of the plate you cut in half. So you have a quarter of your protein, which is going to be your meat, your poultry, your fish, or your eggs. And then the other quarter is going to be your whole grain, which is going to be if you use wild rice, quinoa. Obviously, at the holidays, we're going to probably do a sweet potato or a potato dish. That's okay. And then your dairy could be your beverage. And then, of course, it's the holiday. We're going to have some dessert too. If we portion size, that helps. Just a recommendation. I know that that might not be realistic because it is the day, the holiday. And as I always say, one cheat meal a week is great. This could be your cheat meal. The next thing is this. Take 3 bites of the fattening foods because after 3 bites, the food is not going to taste any differently. You've had the bites, you're good. Move on to the more healthy option, maybe your steamed veggies if that's what your family chooses to make or you make at your firehouse. If you're going to a party, here's a key to success. Bring a healthy dish with you because that way you know there's something healthy for you to snack on at the party. So size everything up. Look at what's there and then choose what you want to eat accordingly. And if there's something you love, by all means, eat it because it's the holiday time. And there are certain foods that do come out at the holiday time that are special that you don't get any other time. But you also know you can fill up your plate. Maybe if you bring some cut up veggies and hummus, or maybe if you bring fruit and a nice fruit platter or a cheese and cracker platter, you can go for those things instead of the higher calorie options. Another thing that we can do is, here's a trick. At parties, if you always have a drink in your hand, no matter what you're drinking, that means you only have one other free hand, and it's hard to hold that plate and a utensil because your hand is occupied. So maybe you have a few finger foods and you can put your plate down and take a few finger foods as opposed to taking big portions that require you eating with utensils. And that can control what you're eating at parties. And having that drink in your hand, if it's a non-caloric drink, you can always sip on that in between bites, and that keeps you from overeating at parties. Next thing, we can practice mindful eating. So sort of like what I just said, look at everything before you just start putting things on your plate. Sort of in a buffet style where I know we've often been in situations where you don't see what everything is because you start and you grab a plate and you just go down the line. So you think, well, the first and the second thing are things that I love. Maybe I better load up on those. And maybe you don't like the third thing, but the fourth and fifth thing are great too. So suddenly you have this huge plate loaded up with calories. And for some people, we've raised to eat whatever's on our plate. So you feel like you have to finish it. And we also don't want to insult anybody because food is love. So we don't want to make anybody feel that maybe we didn't like what they brought. So we eat it all. And then we've self-sabotaged ourselves. So size up everything before you get in that line and know what you're going to choose. That's a great practice. Another thing to do, and this is along the same line, and this one cracks me up, Christmas cookies. I don't know what it is about Christmas cookies, but it seems that anytime you put red and green sprinkles on something, it makes it the best thing ever. But trust me when I tell you, a chocolate chip cookie is still a chocolate chip cookie, whether it's got sprinkles on it or not. And you can have these cookies anytime during the year. So there are certain things that people make at Christmas. And there's certain things that we always look forward to because we know maybe, Aunt Susie always makes her special bar cookies that we love. So those are the things that we choose, things that are special to us. I love making the cookies, and it's very simple. It's just flour, butter, and crushed almonds in a dough that surrounds a Hershey Kiss. You roll it in the confectioner sugar and bake it out. And I love those. So I know whenever I see those at Christmas time, that's what I'm choosing. So pick one or two cookies off the tray. Another thing that people do, you can take a cookie and break it in half and split it with somebody so that way you can try more. But the idea is not to just grab something because it's got the sprinkles and looks pretty. Also, and not to take away from store-bought cookies, would you rather have the store-bought cookie or the homemade cookie? So when you see those store-bought cookies come to your firehouse, because we know at the holiday season, we are inundated by our wonderful citizens of the community that love to show their appreciation by bringing us homemade goods. And it's a wonderful tradition, but it can get us into a lot of trouble, especially when we're bored at the firehouse and it's there in front of us, we're going to eat it. Let's face it. We all do it. We walk through the kitchen, and if it's on the table, we just grab subconsciously and take a bite. We may realize at that point in time, I've done this 10 times today. Let me throw the other half out. But sometimes it's just what happens. So size things up. That's the bottom line. Pick what you want. Pick what is special to you for that holiday cookie. I know I have people that make the ones with the Reese's peanut butter cup on them. I love those. I only really get those at Christmas time, so those are definitely the indulgences. You get the idea. Enough said about that. Now, another thing that cracks me up. Gravy is not a beverage. People love to drown their food in gravy. It's much like salad dressing. When you see people that all you can see on their salad is ranch dressing, people do the same thing with gravy. And that really, really adds up to a lot of calories. So when you're using gravy, by all means, use it if you love it. Don't just pour it on everything. Maybe pour it on the side of a food item and dip instead of drown. So that would be a key to success. Dip, not drown. And that way you can take your turkey or whatever you have, your stuffing, your potatoes, and dip it into that gravy instead of having all of those extra calories. Another thing too, a lot of holiday food already contains salt in the product. So take a bite before adding salt if you're a person that enjoys the flavor, because you may not need to add tons of salt to certain things. They're already salty as they are. So try before you add. Another key to success right there. If you are able to lose a few pounds before the holiday starts, that's great because our best laid plans oftentimes just don't work. And we can go through this list and we can think, yes, we're going to follow all of these practices. But then guess what? When we're faced with the big meal or the days or the weeks to come and all the food is coming to the firehouse and the baskets are coming to your home. Sometimes we just can't control ourselves. Let's face it, we're human. But if we can lose a few pounds, if we need to, prior to the start of the holiday season, that gives a little wiggle room. So if you do gain a few pounds over the holidays, you're back to your baseline. You don't feel horrible. Come the time to make your New Year's intentions or resolutions. And that way you've got a great game plan and you set yourself up for success. Exercise regularly. Be consistent with exercise throughout the year, not just at the holiday time. If we are consistent with exercise, we're going to build muscle. Muscle burns more calories than fat. So even at rest and at sleep, you're burning more calories with the more muscle mass that you have. It also keeps you on a consistent plan because let's face it, the holidays are a very hectic time. And I always say that I absolutely love Christmas, especially in July when Christmas in July starts happening and it's exciting. But when it's actually go time and there's shopping and there's cooking and there's parties and still working and trying to organize things and decorating and whatever we do, even with our own religious practices, it gets busy and we stop exercising. A lot of people just don't do anything in November and December. Anything is better than nothing. Try to remain consistent. Even if you just get up and walk around your block to get some fresh air, clear your head, get a nice reset, do a quick yoga class, everything you can find on YouTube videos to do these types of things, even a quick stretch, a few jumping jacks, wall push-ups, anything you can do to get the blood flowing, regenerate, reset, keeps you consistent. On the day of the holiday, I often see, especially Thanksgiving, there's always turkey trots and I see Santa runs. So on the day of the holiday, you don't have to do a big event such as that. Those are just recommendations that I see, but take the family out for a walk. Take the dog out for a walk. Go visit neighbors when you're bringing over your holiday cookies that you've baked for each other. Spend time outside, get some fresh air, and just keep moving. Because if you start getting the blood flowing and the metabolism going, it will help you to burn off some of that holiday meal. Because there is no worse feeling than knowing you're stuffed, but the food is so good that you can't resist another bite or two or three. And then you sit there and have to unbutton your pants and think to yourself, what did I just do? If you're exercising a little bit before and after the meal, you may advert those feelings. Be careful of the holiday beverages. It's amazing how many calories are in things that we make, especially eggnog is so high in calorie, even if you're using the low-fat version of it. Starbucks things, Dunkin' Donuts things that they sell. If you look at the calories of the hot chocolates, it's amazing. And then, of course, they make them fancy by adding more whipped cream and more crushed mint and maybe a chocolate drizzle. All of this adds up. Not to say if you love something, don't have it, but don't have it every day. So make that your special treat for your 20% where you're not eating as healthy. So keep that in mind. Holiday beverages really add up. And it's also a time where there's a lot of alcohol around. And we've talked about the alcohol. And the portion sizes for alcohol are 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, and 1.5 ounces of spirits. And the recommendation is for men to have no more than 2 drinks a day if you choose to drink, and women no more than 1 drink a day if you choose to drink. A lot of our holiday drinks incorporate alcohol into them too. We used to love going to my neighbor's house where they would have Irish coffee, and that was always a holiday treat we looked forward to. So just be mindful of what you're doing. And as always, your adults choose wisely. And again, you can use that in your size up. So if you know you're going to choose to have a high calorie beverage, maybe just have one of your Christmas cookies and not 2 or 3. That's a good tip to be aware of. Watch the holiday drinks. Now, try not to wear really loose fitting clothing to your holiday meal. If you come in sweatpants, you're going to be able to eat a lot more because those clothes aren't going to feel tight. If you wear pants that button, skirts that button, whatever you may be wearing, you're going to start feeling my clothes are getting really tight and I feel terrible. And that's a key. Maybe I should stop and drink some water or take a reset. That's one important thing to remember. If you're really comfortable, you're going to lose control. Trust me, I've been there. But you know what? Again, this could be your favorite day, and the holiday is a meal, and it's not a week. So enjoy on the same account. Engage in conversation during the meal, because if you're talking, you're not chewing. And remember, it took a long time to prepare this meal, not just in the cooking, but in the planning, the shopping, creating, decorating. So take time and enjoy it. Don't just eat in 3 seconds. We're there spending time with family, whether it be our fire department family, if you're on shift that day, or with your family at home. Take time to enjoy each other's company. Sit down for the meal. Don't stand up to have the meal, because I see a lot of people take their plate and they're still talking, maybe watching the big football game, and they're standing or leaning. You don't realize how much you're eating then. If you sit down with your meal in front of you, you know, okay, here's my meal. I'm satisfied. I'm making conversation. Enjoy it. Enjoy the flavors, because the holiday flavors are great. You don't always get these throughout the year. Another trick is to eat off a smaller plate. If you pile up your food on a big dinner plate and pile up your food on a smaller salad plate, for example, you eat with your eyes first. So your eyes see a lot of food on this small salad plate, and it's satisfying. So you're going to be getting half the calories by eating off that small plate than you would by eating off a big dinner plate. Just a thought. And another thought is this: serve buffet style. If all the food is in the center of the table, it's very easy to pass the food back and forth. Just give me another spoonful, another spoonful. If it's buffet style, you go through the line, you take your plate, sit down, enjoy your meal, and don't go back for seconds. Another thing to do is also to put that food away before you put your dessert foods out, because that gives you time to realize how full you are, to have a reset, and out of sight, out of mind. Those platters are very tempting when they're sitting there. And I know from being in the fire service, I eat very, very fast. And oftentimes, for those of us that eat quickly, when the people around us are eating more slowly and they still have half a plate of food, you feel like maybe you need to put a little bit more onto your plate too. So you're self-sabotaging yourself. So we end up, us fast eaters, eating 3 times the amount of food when we're around slow eaters, because they're eating, they may not be talking. So another trick, if that is you, get that non-caloric beverage in your hand so you have something to sip on, whether it be water or whether it be a bubbly, sparkling water with no calories or an iced tea. Whatever your choice, that's another tip for success. Sit down and take time to enjoy your meal. Don't eat quickly. We just talked about that, but that is so important. It was next on my list. I kind of incorporated it. But the most important thing is to remember that food is not just for nutrition. It's for satiety. It brings back memories. And that's the main thing about our holiday meal, is that growing up, we've all had different traditions. And I love to hear what people talk about with what their families do, because we all come from different backgrounds. We've all grown up in different areas of the United States or the world. And there's different customs and different traditions and different foods that are incorporated with all of these traditions. And as we grow up and we unfortunately lose people in our family, we try to carry out those traditions by maybe remembering what was special when you would go to grandma's house or grandpa's house and what they prepared. And we do that. And it's so important to keep the family traditions alive and pass those on. So sometimes we want to include everything, and it's great, but leftovers also are great. So we don't have to eat everything at that meal. The next day and the next day, I know eventually in my house, we have turkey and then we have turkey soup and we have turkey casserole. And we are so sick of seeing turkey after a week that by the time the turkey sandwich comes along, it ends up going to the dog. But remember, keep those traditions alive and enjoy those foods because you may only get them once a year. And that is why, again, we say, and I'll say it for the last time, maybe make this be your cheat meal and enjoy the day. Enjoy your family. Take care of one another. Get outside, though, during the day. Get your fresh air. Get a little bit of movement going. It doesn't have to just be about food. Traditions can also be about playing football outside with the kids, kicking the ball around, doing an event like a turkey trot or a Santa run. Just get up and move. Enjoy life. Enjoy the holiday. And I wish everybody a very happy and joyous holiday season, no matter what you choose to celebrate. Celebrate it well, with love, with life, and happy holidays to all of you. Thank you so much, and see ya!